here with all of you. And we had such a wonderful day yesterday, sharing all sorts of different ideas and workshopping how we support our various different communities. So today I want to look at sustainability, our libraries, and 4IR. And I want to focus on impactful research. And I'm going to explain why as I go through my presentation. But to begin with, I want to ask, what do you think are some of the important things that we should be looking at in libraries? I'm going to suggest that we begin by answering this question by looking at the landscape in which we are working. And I'm looking primarily here at the landscape of higher education. And then to say, well, what are the needs of the places where we work and how do we support this change? And then I want to give some ideas about how we actually lead the change that we think is important. So if we begin, what do we think are 3, or you may come up with 4 or 5, possible challenges that are facing universities at the moment? So what do you think? Anybody, any ideas? Really? Nobody has any ideas? What is? Yes, Alrina? Money. Yes, money, for sure. Okay, she took the really easy one. Right. What are some of the other challenges that we are facing in higher education? Inclusion, very good. What else? Technology and? Relevance, yes, exactly. Anybody else have anything else they think is really important? Yeah? Openness, yeah, and open access as well. And yes. Politics, very important. Okay, so I think that one of the really important challenges that face us is the idea of sustainable development and societal impact. So if we are going to be universities, what is the impact that we are having as universities? So as Prof. Gravett was quoting Professor Chris Brink, I'm also going to be looking at his work from the very same book. And he asked 2 questions. What are universities good at? And what are universities good for? Now, universities have spent a lot of time talking about what they're good at. Great philosophical ideas, publishing lots of wonderful ideas that nobody actually reads, etc., etc. But in the world that we live in at the moment, do we really need to spend a lot of money for people to think great thoughts? Or do we really need to be saying universities need to be good for something? They need to be doing things that positively impact society. Of course, we do that through our teaching and learning. But have we always done that really through our research? Is our research having a positive impact on society? That's a difficult question to ask, but I think one that we all need to be asking, and that we as librarians need to continually encourage those that we work with to ask. The second question, which you all picked up as well, was the question of relevance. So we used to talk about publish or perish, but now it's be impactful or be invisible. If your work can't be found, it is as good as not existing. It's a bit like social media. You know, if the event is not on social media, it didn't happen, kind of thing. And this is very, very challenging for everybody that we engage with, because we're asking people to take another step forward. It's all good and well that you publish a lot, and I can say this because I'm at the University of Johannesburg, and we were top in the rankings for publishing lots and lots of stuff, but did what we publish really have an impact? And did what we publish get used? Did people see it? Or is it just numbers on a spreadsheet? So we have to look at how people can find us so that they can cite us. And then, of course, we have the financial constraints. How do we do more with less? Seems to be the big mantra at the moment. And what is that going to mean for academics and for libraries and, of course, for public libraries as much as academic libraries? So we have these three key issues that we talked about. And they actually all fit very nicely and neatly into the broader idea of sustainable development. Because sustainable development is all about saying what is the economic cost of something, what is the cost to people and to planet, and how do we come together to do what is good for us as a society and a community in a way that is positive, has a positive impact on our planet, does not impoverish people further, but nurtures and builds people up. And that's really why most of us are librarians, because we want to nurture, we want to build, we want to create communities, and we want to support people. So, if these are our challenges, what are some of our opportunities? So, again, over to you guys. What do you think are some of the opportunities that we face at this moment in our history? What are some of the opportunities? In libraries, for academics, public libraries, school libraries, university libraries? What are some of the challenges and opportunities? Surely there must be one challenge or opportunity you can think of. Yes, Jason. Yes, so one of the challenges and opportunities is AI. Very good. Any others? Yes. Government is a challenge, and hopefully will one day be an opportunity for us as well. Okay, yeah? Yes, open access as a challenge and an opportunity. And over there, Madumela. Infrastructures, challenging at times, but also opportunities. How can you leverage your infrastructures better, etc.? So, while we do have a lot of challenges and opportunities, when we just give it one moment's thought, we start to see that there are, in every challenge, there is an opportunity. So, what I would like to do now is look at some of these challenges and opportunities. And you've all pointed them out already. Using 4IR, and by 4IR I'm really talking about artificial intelligence. Open research I see as an opportunity but also a challenge. I'm not going to focus on that very much because we'll talk about that later on in our conference. And then sustainability of libraries. So using AI. And I just love this picture of this guy trying to find something. Because sometimes that's what it's like when you're doing research. You're trying to find articles and you're not quite sure where to find them. And really finding that good article can feel a bit like a needle in a haystack. So what I'm going to be suggesting now is a number of different ways in which AI can support the project of research that is visible and has an impact. But before I go into this, I want to start by saying that many of us see AI and we think people are not needed. What I'm going to show is many ways in which we are going to need to use AI going forward. And what I'm trying to point to is how relevant libraries are and how important the work of librarians is and is going to be going forward. It may change and you may need to learn some new skills, but librarians are going to be at the heart of making a lot of these things possible. So when you see AI, I want you to not see that as a challenge to you as a librarian, but an opportunity for you as a librarian. Because your work is going to become sharing what AI can do with the many people that come into your libraries. So let's begin by looking at this question of visibility. So I was at a conference last week, and one of the speakers was sharing that at the University of Utrecht, in their library, they have something called a visibility check. So they help researchers to check, have they made their research as visible as possible? And I'm going to explain how you do that. So one of the things they say is before an academic publishes an article, they really need to come and sit with the librarian so that a librarian can help them with a number of things I'm going to put up. The first is, if you assign keywords that search engines find easily or most effectively, your research will become more visible. Tell an academic to put in keywords, and they will tell you the 4 things foremost on their mind, probably some arbitrary, in inverted commas, obscure, in inverted commas, academic language which a search engine is not going to find. So therefore, they need to come and be with a librarian, because you are all trained in how to find things. Right, good point. Next thing, prepare your paper for online archiving. Again, librarians understand this, and this is how we can help academics. The next is, use a title that can be searched better. So really play with your title and help academics to do that, so that they put in the words that they want their community to see. So if you really want people in South Africa and working in South Africa to be accessing your research, put the word South Africa in your title. If that's not that important, leave it out, use other words. But these are things that academics are not particularly good at, but librarians have been trained to have a deep understanding of how these things work. Then, I love this one, repeat key phrases in the abstract while writing in a natural style. So please don't write your abstract using ChatGPT alone, because immediately people are going to go, well, this whole thing is just plagiarized or written by a chatbot. So help academics to find that line. And while we are making all of this research more visible, we have some other things to look at. We can up our game now, not just looking at the preparation of the article, but how we make an article more visible. And again, AI can be very useful. So my first slide, this slide, is talking about how we use AI and we prepare our sources so that AI can find what we've done most effectively. Now, I want to look at some other artificial intelligence tools. The first one is AI can read your article and put together a nice short little post for LinkedIn. And how many academics, and I have to raise my hand here, have published articles and not put it up on LinkedIn? Thousands of them, and then they wonder why their stuff never gets seen. Okay, next thing, create an infographic. Again, AI is very good at doing this. So put up a nice infographic on your social media platforms. Write a blog. Write a blog about you as a researcher. So again, this is where we as librarians can come alongside academics and help them to realize that these things are not madly time-consuming. Use the right AI, and these things can be done relatively quickly. AI can also create a nice Twitter post. Because when I say these things to academics, the immediate thing that they say, and it's exactly the same thing I do myself, is I go, I don't have time. I don't have another half hour or an hour to do this. And so you land up not doing it. But it's actually very important, because this is how the world of AI works. It harvests indiscriminately from across a lot of different platforms. So you've got to be on the multiple different platforms to be picked up more easily. And if you use AI, it can basically do these different things for you. And then you can use an AI to create a video of your research. I haven't quite mastered this one yet, but I look forward to doing that. So these are tools that we as librarians should be able to master so that we can help academics, so that they can achieve what they need to do, which is produce research that is visible. And then we talk about the publishing and the efficiency of publishing. So many different academics bewail the fact that it takes so long to format their particular article. And I read somewhere that it takes 52 hours for academics to format articles in a year. Okay, I don't quite see how that is, but never mind. It takes a long time. Right. Then 75% of all articles that are submitted are rejected. So one of the things I love to say to people, if you want to understand why academics are often so grumpy, it's because they probably just had an article rejected in the peer review process. And academics then love to be very nasty to each other in the peer review process because they got a bad peer review, so now they're going to be horrible to the next person. And then we wonder why they can spend so much time arguing and fighting with each other. Okay, so one of the things we can do is help academics with fact-checking of their different articles, again, using AI. We can help them to verify the authenticity of images and ideas. Yes, you think it's your own idea. Is it really your own idea, or has it become your own idea because you've actually been reading about it and hearing about it, but forgot that this is where you read about and heard about it? Then help them to make links across the many millions of different articles that have been published, because often the field is so big, so you can't read everything. And then you don't realize that there's actually a whole body of literature dealing with what you think is a brand new idea. Your article's going to get rejected because the editors are using these tools and they can see this has already been published 100 times. We don't need another article on this. And then, of course, helping them to reference and create the structure that the journal is looking for. And again, we just bang on about Mendeley, RefWorks, or EndNote, whatever you're using. Every single academic should be using a referencing system, and for whatever reason, they're not all yet using them. So our work is still cut out for us. So what I hope you can see from this is, yes, AI is important. AI is here, and it's the future. But AI is complex. It's fast-changing. And the work of the librarian is going to become helping people to use these tools. Because if academics don't use them, they're going to waste valuable time, and they're going to lag behind. And really, not everybody needs to learn by themselves how to do this when the library can support them. Right. Then the next thing is AI and information analysis. Now, we know a lot of this already, but really helping academics, particularly as we think about sustainable development. Because when we talk about sustainable development, we're looking at an idea in the context of something broader. So you're not going to talk about water pollution and just look at the biology of how the water is polluted. You're going to look at the community in which it's happening, the impact that it's happening on nature, etc., etc. And this means you have to become very multi- and transdisciplinary. Oy vey. I'm struggling to keep on top of my small area of research. Now you come along and tell me I've got to read much more broadly and be aware of a whole lot of other disciplines. Okay, maybe I'm not going to do sustainable development goals stuff. That's just too much work. That's what people will say. But if we can come alongside them and remind them that AI, the tools we have in the library, will help you find the relevant things quickly. And in using AI and having a broad understanding of all the literature, you are able to pick up the lacuna. In other words, the areas where there are gaps. And that's kind of the gold for an academic. Where has something not been said so that I can say something new into it? And then the one that I'm particularly excited about, and that is starting to really emerge with AI, is the sentiment in an article. So in this we mean, let's say people are looking at Pentecostal churches, which is something that I work with, and some people look at it positively and some people look at it negatively. I need to know that. So just giving me a list of all the articles isn't good enough. I want to know how many people think positively about something or negatively. And where do these sentiments come from? Is the positive all from Africa and the negative all from Europe, or the other way around? Or is there no distinction geographically? So you can see the exciting things that one can begin to do with material. But again, we need to help academics to be able to do this. And then the visualization of data, because we're a bit short on time, I'm not going to spend time on this. But I want to talk about the limitations of AI. So the first is how we classify things. And a lovely example is the idea of alternative medicine or complementary medicine. Is that a religious question, a philosophical question, a medical question? AI can't determine that, okay? But we understand how one idea can be classified or be talked about across multiple different disciplines. The next thing is that chatbots and AI can't work out what is relevant. We can. They also can't make inferences. So if a chatbot reads, how old is Vera? Vera is the same age as Irene. Irene is 65. So how old is Vera? How old is Vera? 65. AI can't do that yet. I'm sure it'll get there, but at the moment, it can't make those inferences. And inferences and classification and relevancy are really at the heart of the academic project. Also, where chatbots get their information from, or AI gets its information from, is problematic, and we all know about this. And then they cannot take a summary or summarize in a way that gives a critical judgment. So the work of people is still very, very important in knowledge production and knowledge consumption and knowledge analysis. So as librarians, these are the kinds of things where, again, we are needed and how we help our colleagues. Then some of the problems continue. AI can't find everything, and I'm very passionate about this point. AI can collect raw data when the raw data is visible. So if AI were to look at all of you, it would be able to tell a lot about who you are because it has access to a lot of your data, i.e. social media. Take the people just outside you, Jay, who are begging on the streets. In the world of AI, they don't exist. Okay? We've got to be very, very careful here. We live in a country where many, many people and many things that happen to people and our planet are not visible. But we live in a world in which we're beginning to rely more and more on the data that an AI machine can find for us. So this is an area where social impact of our research is so important because our work is to make the invisible visible. It's to make the problems that society pushes away visible, bring them to the fore. So as much as we talk about AI, we need to be aware of the limitations and help our researchers to see this. Then how we collect our data sets and verify them can also be quite problematic with AI. And then what we collect and what we see and what we publish, all talking to this, what is visible and what is not visible. So while AI is very useful, it also has problems and limitations. And then, of course, there are the predatory journals, and this is one of the problems with AI. It often makes bad quality things very visible. Right, and then, as I've said, AI has no judgment on quality. This is where we come in. So we've talked about using AI as one of the ways to address the opportunities and challenges that we see and how they will bring about varying types of change. I now want to look very briefly at some sustainability in libraries. So when we talk about sustainability, we generally talk about our environment, but we're also talking about people. So in our libraries, I think one of the ways forward for sustainability is very much around sharing collections. We tend to see our interlibrary loans going down. I think interlibrary loans should be going up. Why are we all buying exactly the same collections? We are one country with one tax base, and we really need to start buying differently so that we can share our collections effectively. We have the tools, we just need to start buying differently and having different conversations. And then within the world of open access, navigating this is a very important part of a sustainable library, and I've talked about all of that already. And then I just want to talk about libraries and their communities. So I have a charity that I work with called Sole Provider, and we deliver 17 million meals a year to people. But what we do is we provide meals. And as I've been thinking about sustainability, why are we not also providing information? Why are we only giving food? We should be giving more. And so for us as the Library of UJ, really we have a golden opportunity here that I'm not quite sure why I haven't brought the two things together. Because we go to these different communities, and surely there are ways in which we can be sharing information and not just food. So all of this requires us to think differently, and I just want to end by talking about what I call the A, B, C, D, and E of positive change environments, because that's what we have to create. We need to create spaces that are agile, where people can learn quickly, where people's job descriptions can change quickly, and where people can, in an agile way, embrace the change. We need to have time to bed things down. It's not good enough just to bring about a lot of change if people don't learn how to use the technology and bed down what they understand. We're never really going to move forward. Then we need to have spaces that are creative and where communication is open, transparent, and continuous. In all of this, we continually need to be developing our staff members and our communities. And then we need to bring about change that is relevant to our particular environment. The change that I might bring across or about at UJ is different to what might be needed in a public library or the University of Oxford. We live in different environments, but if we can bring about these 5 things, we can create spaces where we are part of positive change, where we embrace the challenges and we turn each of them into the opportunities that they present. Thank you so much.
Okay. I think another round of applause for that. Thank you so much, Prof. Frahm-Arp. What we'll do now is we're going to afford an opportunity for both those who are in the room with us as well as those who have joined us online for about 10 minutes of Q&A. And so I'd love to see if we have any questions coming from the floor. I think what you shared, Prof, was, extensive knowledge sharing, and I think I most appreciated the practical nature of your presentation, really giving us not just things to think about, but ways in which we can actively start to apply some of the changes that we're speaking to. So I want to invite any questions from the floor, anybody who says there's something that was covered in the presentation that really resonated, and I'd love for us to unpack it a little bit further. I am also directing this to my online audience as well. Are there any questions that you'd like to pose to Prof, having listened to that presentation? Okay, I see a hand up at the back. That's one hand. Let's see if we have any other hands in the room. There's another hand to my right-hand side at the back here. I think let's settle with those two for now. Or is there a third? Okay, I've got a third as well. I've noted you. So we'll start, gentleman to my far left. We'll come to the lady on my far right, and then we'll close it with you, sir, in the middle here. Thank you so much. Over to you. Please state your name and maybe also tell us a little bit about where you come from. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Manjagaisa Maseko. I come from Midval Public Libraries. That is a municipality. Now, having listened to your research, it was so inspiring and insightful. But I want to find out, especially from the university level, because at the municipality level, if you go to libraries, especially on the issue of open research, there is none whatsoever, you know. And then, but funny enough, they've got what we call work skills development in the municipality. So I would like to request from the Prof, or maybe look at it in another angle, to say how can we best support the public libraries for them to be able to implement, especially on the issue of AI and open research.
Thank you. I think that's such an excellent question. Do you want to take the three and then I answer them together?
Yes, please. Thank you. So we'll come to the lady. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. This is Nolusindi Skay Purutsi from Verts. I loved what you said about ILL. The numbers are decreasing in ILL. And what's the purpose of having ILL if it's not working? Now, my question is, who should take this initiative, considering what's happening with ILL? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Short and sweet. And then we come to the gentleman in the middle.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much, Prof. Maria, for this insightful presentation this morning. One of the things that I know you always stress on is that as librarians, we ought to meet the needs of the academics. And in your presentation, there's a fact that you said about 75% of all publications are rejected before they get peer reviewed. And as a clarity, the 4 points that you shared subsequently, is that where the issues are? Okay. No,
not only, but those are key issues. Okay.
Thank you.
So let me answer. Right. So to start with the public libraries, and thank you so much for that question, because I had actually wanted to talk a little bit more about public libraries and AI. So I think that one of the things we should be doing in public libraries is really helping young people and the public at large to understand how to navigate the online world and its AI. Because we don't really learn about this anywhere. And learning how to find information in the online world is probably one of the most critical skills. So what made me think about it in particular was driving into work this morning. And there was something on the radio about people feeling so despondent as they try to apply for jobs and they just keep on getting rejected. And I know anecdotally from many of my students that they often apply in the wrong places. If they had a better understanding of how AI worked, how the social media and chatbot, etc. world worked, and these are the platforms on which they are applying for jobs and looking for jobs, they would probably be applying for jobs that are a better fit, and they would be having a lower rejection rate. So I think that public libraries, and I know this is difficult because we have constrained resources, should really be places where we have Wi-Fi, so that people can come with their smartphones, however unfancy the phone is. And librarians really help people to navigate information searching in the online world. So I see the work of public librarians as also becoming quite different and offering a different sort of service. And I'd love to chat about that more during the tea break. So then to the ILL question. So what I think should happen is that we as library directors should be getting together and having strategies about who buys what. It is really stupid, I'm sorry, that UJ and WITS are going to buy exactly the same collections. It makes our vendors, and you should probably all close your ears here, vendors, it makes our vendors happy, but not really. If you have a conversation with Tammy, for example, or John, they will say to you, we are here to give you what you really need. And if we went back to vendors as libraries and said, we have very well functioning interlibrary loans with specialists who really understand how this works, can we structure different deals with you so that you as vendors are still okay and we can buy bigger collections that we can share as a country, rather than all buying the same thing and then spending exorbitant amounts of money to get things from overseas for interlibrary loan. So I think the whole interlibrary loan world needs a complete rethink. And we're sitting on a gold mine of resources and people who know what they're doing, and we're not using it. Madumela. Yes, why are things rejected? So actually those things that I put up are some of the key things. I have a friend, and she is also an editor of a journal, and if you don't submit your article to her in exactly the right format, she just de facto rejects it. Okay, she doesn't even look at anything. Other editors de facto reject articles because the language editing is poor. In the journal that I work with, we've taken the decision that we really want to be an access journal for the Global South. So we don't bang on about your language, but we do charge you article processing fees, and those fees are 80% of it or 85% of it pays for the language editing. So we will format everything for you, we will language edit for you, because it is easier for our colleagues in the Global South to pay article processing fees than it is for them to pay to get somebody to language edit. Because a lot of them will have it language edited via Grammarly, and yeah, that still needs proper editing. I mean, it's a good start, but that's not quite where we're at. So formatting, editing, and then the other big thing, Madumela, is getting your facts right and knowing that this hasn't been discussed 100 times before. The number of articles I land up rejecting because they didn't actually read everything that was written is probably half the articles that come through to me. And I just want to scream and say, why didn't you go and see a librarian? We would have had a different conversation. So I send a very polite email and I tell them, look, this is what you need to do and you can resend it. But most editors will just reject. Okay, do we have time?
We actually have, I think we've got two contributions from the online space. So Sibu, or one of the gents, if I could ask you just to read two questions. Let's try to keep it succinct, but thank you so much. Over to you.
Okay, we have an online question from Huitamang Ngwane. Huitamang is asking, how can librarians upskill as these technologies always find us here? And then there's also Ashraf Raycliffe. Prof. Maria, will you run a workshop on the use of AI tools at UJ?
Yeah. Okay, so I'd love to run a workshop on AI tools for UJ and any other library that would like it. Those of you that met me yesterday in the workshop on teaching, this is my space, this is my home. I love teaching, and helping people to learn how to do things to the best of their ability is what makes me get up in the morning. The other question around, sorry, I've just gone blank. The first question?
Okay. How can librarians upskill?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So the upskilling of librarians, here I really want to say a huge thank you to many of our sponsors. So I'm just going to point to Elsevier because John and I have had several conversations about it. But many of our vendors run the most fantastic workshops helping librarians to use cutting-edge technologies. So really, one of the places that I would start is go back to your vendors. Find out what they have, because a lot of times we buy products and we don't really understand everything that they can do. And then ask them to do either online training, or I know they will come to your universities or to your public libraries and do those trainings in person. You know, it is part of the package that they offer us, but it's one of those things we don't really take up enough. So I think that is where I would start.